one day being 30 years if you're not in government?
Do you know that in 1996, the white paper on land reform had set 1999 as the due date for a distribution of 30% of South Africa's land? It's 30 years later now. It's 25 years since 1999. Not even 10% of the land has been redistributed from those who are occupying it through colonialism and settler barbaric colonialism because of an incapable, directionless government of the ANC. And when we then came as the economic freedom fighters, we say that this piece by piece redistribution of land has not worked because it, in majority of cases, is faced with litigation of people who are saying that you cannot take my farm, you must take these ones instead of this. Why taking mine? Why prioritizing mine instead of the other one? Then we say that let us do to the land resources what was done to the petroleum and mineral resources, to water resources, what the People's Republic of China is doing, of getting the land to be under the custodianship of the state so that we can be able to allocate it to everyone equitably representative and reflective of the demographics of South Africa.
And that's where you and
that is our position, that is it. Of course, then the ANC had initially agreed to our position, and then they later on said that the only land that can be taken without compensation is barren land, is rotten land, is land which is not strategic. That is why we voted against what they had proposed.
The difference was in
terms of
when you say that land, for example, that is taken or redistributed or meant for redistribution,
And
the state should be the custodian. And I think that was the core difference between the EFF and the ANC.
Yes, on the expropriation without compensation, we fully agree.
The deed was to dispose of those assets.
What?
Yes. Can I tell you? He claims he's going to sue me, but you know, I want to repeat it on your podcast again.
Oh, and then I must also get sued.
No, you're not going to get sued. I asked him a simple question. Sun City. The land belongs to the Lidach people and the Bakatla people, right? 1,400 hectares. Guess what? Guess what? 1994, instead of restituting the land to the rightful owners, they transfer the land to national government. Right? And then they say they are the lessor and Sun City is the lessee. Right? The people that own Ntsiki 45 years later. Sun City is turning 45 this year. Pilanesberg is turning 45. 45 years later, the owners of the land have no equity, zero equity, have no management role, zero management. Sun City is run by people from outside of the Northwest. Procurement, zero. You know, Sun City buys 1 million eggs, Ntsiki. None of those eggs are bought in the Northwest. Yet there are farmers around Sun City. Right? So I asked him a question. Why did you transfer the land to national? 2, where's the lease agreement between Sun City, Sun International, and the national government? Because there isn't. This is an arrangement to frustrate these communities. But 2, very important, why did you transfer the physical assets that were built by the Bob government? And you know what are those physical assets? The Palace of the Lost City, the Cascades, the main hotel, and the cabanas. They were transferred in Ntsiki. They were not sold because they cannot produce a sale and purchase agreement 45 years later. So the balance sheet of Sun International, when they say they own Sun City, somebody needs to ask the question, who paid NWDC for the cost, the investment cost of building that which you see there?
So then where does Saul Kerzner fit in?
He just brought the brand. He's a brand strategist. He just brought the brand. Sun International, Sun City. That's it. Everything was done by the Northwest Development Corporation, which today is bankrupt, cannot pay its staff members. And yet, in 1994, it was sitting, I'm sure, with about close to about 500 million rands in its bank account. There's a company
looked at your manifesto and they always identify certain key points that might be different to other parties and emphasize it. One of those things is the whole land discussion. Now, you guys believe in land redistribution with compensation. Now, that's very different to the likes of, for example, the EFF or the ANC. Why did you go with that stance to do?
Because that's the only practical thing that will work. If anyone can show us where else in the world that land has been taken, people haven't been compensated, where civil wars haven't broken out or countries have just fallen into obscurity, then we'll have a conversation and it might change our minds, but it hasn't happened. And most importantly, the land issue. The world's economy is built on land. You look at anything that happens, everything that eventually coalesces at banking level is based on land, whether it's construction, whether it's mining, whether it's agriculture. So if you start messing around with the land issue, you're going to upset the natural order of things. And it's not the natural order of things that we're exclusive to. We are fully inclusive to it. We exist on it. Our financial systems, our legal systems are based on this global doctrine of what land is, of value, whether it be a property, whether it be an open piece of land, whether it's land that can be leased, rented, developed, farmed, mined. It all boils down to what an economy is built on. So we don't want to mess with those statutes. I don't think it's something we should be messing with, and I think we need to be very careful with that narrative. We completely need to walk away from saying something that is, the people that are saying it will definitely know that it's not doable. It's an impractical thing to do, and it shouldn't be done. Yes, at the same time, we understand that there are issues of redressing land issues historically. We understand the land dispossession issues that, the land laws from 1913. We get that. There's a history that has happened. It's a history that we're all a part of one way or another, but we're here.
We're going to put it straight to you. The problem here are the white people. Because of profits, they control the South African economy. They are saying it in our faces that we are in control of the South African economy. It doesn't matter who is in control as government. And as a result, so they pride themselves to say we are in control. We even control government. As a result, we're saying we the black people are going to stand up and mobilize ourselves and take our land. We've got evidence to that effect. So even those who claim to be commercial businesses, we know you are there as a result of this. And we even did a mistake in law. No one needs to explain to any white person what they did in dispossessing black people. Even if they have established commercial farms or established schools or any establishment they have done, that video is telling a white person who is unsuspecting to say you dispossessed people when they owned the land. Today we are labeled with a belittling label of being a labor tenant. You are telling a person who once owned the land through their forebears. Today, it is a white man who's a landowner. Blacks are now tenants. And this is entrenched even in the governmental systems and the language and the labeling. When you say landlords, it's no longer blacks, it's whites. That's a correction we must make. Two, may I say, when I saw the minutes of the Native Affairs Department in 1960, the title of the minutes said, this is the right time to take the land of the Mthethwas in Paul Petersburg to give it over to other tribes. I saw those records with my own eyes and I was in pain. And you know when did they take them? During the death of Inkosi uMandla kaYise Mthethwa in 1960. They said Mthethwas will be in mourning the whole year. So take their land now. The culture does not allow them to interfere with other people, at least while they are mourning. It will be after mourning that they will come. By the time they come, their land will be gone. This is the practice of Roman, Dutch and British law. The white man's law that is being used to now return our land. We must now go through the eye of an eagle to conform to Roman, Dutch and British law when our land was never packaged by Romans and by the Dutch and by the British. That's an error. So when land is being returned, you are not doing us a favor, neither government nor white people. You took our land, you are just returning stolen property. And that must be clear. So I don't need to account to anyone. What am I doing with that land? It is my inheritance through my forebears. The same way the farmers are claiming ownership of the farms they're sitting on. They say, here is made you the fatherland. But a black person cannot say the same thing. to say this is my father's land, and I must explain to a white person, and I must go to court to explain myself. And yet, when a white man says this is my father's land, it's understandable. When a black man says this is my forebear's land, it's not understandable, because the law we are using is very wrong. Let me go and say, I'm noting Alzu. I know Alzu is a big business in Mpumalanga. Even some of the toll gates, you'll see Alzu, eggs, Alzu. So it is a deliberate intention to take money to give to an established business under pretense that they will manage that money properly to then give black people an empowerment. The opposite is true. They're chowing the money, they're chasing out the people, and there's no accountability. I will follow that up. I know those guys. And they are both in mining, they're in Mpumalanga. So I'm picking that one up. Let me say the same applies with Optima Mine, that I also know. Agri SA, you are saying you are a legal body. You are not a legal body. You're using the law to defend commercial farmers who are sitting on a land that was taken through Forced Removal Act. And I know the following stakeholders who benefited, and you are one of them as Agri SA, because you fall under the bracket of commercial industries. And then you are part of the British, you are part of the apartheid regime, the democratic dispensation, the mining houses, property association, service delivery council, Sandran, commercial industry. These people made money when blacks were removed, especially Amakos in 1913. The beneficiaries to that process, it was yourselves. And now you're using the law to defend against anyone who touches anything that is making profit for you. And you not classify yourself as commercial farmers, as if you are doing farming for us, whereas you're doing farming for yourselves, and you're giving even to the abroad countries. During the Ukraine-Russia war, we saw farmers in South Africa complaining of the ship that are sending food to Europe, which are now stuck. As a result, they needed government intervention. Using the farms here, and you are obstructing the land return process because you are doing business abroad and you are gaining foreign currency. We know who are these people. And it is the same farmers who are your members who are ill-treating these people. That's why I was questioning, what's the role of Agri SA? Are they going to take accountability for the ills that are done by individual members of Agri SA? Agri SA are the culprits in this case. But be that as it may,
the two things that I think a black government should do would be to, first of all, take land from white people because it was stolen and white people are not the rightful owners. And the second thing I would do is to stop speaking the language of the settler, English and Afrikaans, and put at the center African languages. Because imagine if we're having this conversation not in English. Imagine if we were having critical discussions in our country and our president spoke in an African language. White people would immediately lose power. At the same time, there would be an expression of being African. We see that in a party like the DA, where we have the most ridiculously uneducated and quite stupid man, John Steenhuisen.
Who's the worst president in your view?
Well, that's not hard.
What is the view of the DA when it comes to land and the distribution of land that was stolen from those who owned it and right in the beginning?
Well, anybody who can demonstrate that land was stolen from them should have a claim. I mean, if all the money that we've spent on the land restitution program of the ANC has simply been spent on market purchases of land that came willingly onto the market, we could have bought a third of all South Africa's land with that money that's been thrown down the drain with those schemes that they've got. So if that money had just been used in a proper way, we could be in a very, very different place today. A very different place today. Look, land is not a source of wealth. It's expensive dirt unless you develop it. And it's very difficult to develop land in a sustainable way so that it creates jobs and creates food or produces food. It's very difficult to do that. And if you just own a piece of land that no one wants to buy, it has no value to you at all. Now, the question we need to ask about land in South Africa is why our most fertile land, that is in very large measure in black hands, produces very little food and almost no jobs. The Ingonyama Trust. Why? Beautiful, fertile land. Why isn't it producing huge amounts of food and large numbers of jobs? Because you can create hundreds of thousands of jobs in agriculture if it's done properly.
However, South African land is not in black hands. Majority of South African land is not in black hands.
Let's look at the fertile land. Let's just look at the fertile land. The last figure I saw was that 73% of KwaZulu-Natal is in black hands. That is seriously fertile land. Rain, sun, everything you want. Now look at that land and say, is it producing food and jobs? Because that's what you want land for. You want land so people can get jobs and they can eat. That's the value of land to a country and to individuals, jobs and food. Now, why is our most fertile land not producing jobs and food? That is the most fundamental question about land we need to be asking in South Africa. Meanwhile, people want to come and fight about land in the Western Cape, which is not fertile. It takes incredible working to produce food off the Western Cape farms, mostly. Not all, but mostly. We need to be concentrating on, I think it's over 50% in the Eastern Cape that is in black hands, and the 73% in KwaZulu-Natal that is in black hands. Beautiful, perfect, arable land. Why is it not producing food and jobs? That's the question.
But you still can't deny me access to my land, even if I use it to put a tennis court. It's entirely what I choose to do with it.
If you want to use your land for a tennis court, but as a government, when people have private land, they can do what they like with it. But we are looking at feeding people and getting jobs for people. Those are the most important things to do. And so you can't just say, give me land, I want to build a tennis court. Then, you must purchase your land.
Yeah, because, you know that the land issues is something that for some reason has been struggling to shift. It's been what it is forever and ever and ever. You and I know the history of this country very well. We don't question that there is levels of injustice that has happened when it comes to the land issue. And you're saying you have to prove that I've stolen your land for me to be able to give it back to you in that context. But some would say the people who are able to prove it are long dead. They're nowhere near here. But I know that this historically used to be the land that belonged to the Mashabela people, and now it's owned by somebody else.
But that's why we've got the restitution program. And that's been so mismanaged that, we've spent literally hundreds of millions of it. If they just bought the land in the open market, they could have given it back, let alone spending these hundreds of millions in the way that they've been spending it. It's completely mismanaged, the entire process, right? So if you can prove that you were dispossessed of your land, even if it wasn't you or your father or even your grandfather, there should be a proper program, but it's got to be efficiently and properly run. And there are many, many people who are willing sellers of their land at reasonable prices, that all of that land restitution money can be used for. I mean, I saw different models of land restitution around the Duduans area in the Hex River Valley. And in several cases, farmers and their workers have bought up a neighboring farm. The workers got money from the state's fund to give them an equal share in the farm. Fantastic model of land restitution, working really well. Where they've handed it over to the ANC cronies and people like Nosy Peterson and others, absolute devastation. Nothing works. So, you've got to look at Zebedila. Once the most productive and biggest orange producing land in the world, citrus producing land in the world. Have you seen what it looks like now?
Yeah, it covered widely in the newspapers last week.
Now, is that a model of land restitution?
Yeah.
And do we feel better now because someone else owns the land, but there are no jobs there anymore? There's no food production anymore. There's no exports anymore. The question is how...
It starts with land ownership, though. I have to own it first and then learn what to do with it.
Well, you see, the bottom line is 73% of KwaZulu-Natal is in black hands, perfectly arable land. That's why I say exactly what you're saying. Let's start and get that land productive.
It's a tricky one.